Hello, my name is Chase, and this is Jay with us today. Uh, we have a little visitor, as in Jay, and he'll be back with us next week, full spring, and that's that.
So, what's going on, Chase? What are we going to do today? Any ideas?
We're gonna talk about when you should call into astrology to see about what's going on. We're gonna talk about people losing their jobs, etc., and a little bit of this, and a little bit of that.
It sounds good. So, what are your personal experiences with that in your life? When have you had contact with people, or in your own desire? When did you want to have contact to an astrologer? What was it about?
Oh, there was a few times when I was talking to someone, see if we were a good fix, good match. I like to know stuff like that. Like I'd always call you, hey Jay, what's going on? Are we a good match? You'd tell me, or if it's a good time for me to go look for a new job or what the case may be. Uh, just stuff like that because I wasn't sure, and I know the stars tell us everything as
Mm,
does the planets.
That's true. And in those situations, what did you think? Was it helpful to you, or how how did it relate to your situation?
Few times it was helpful. Other times I was like, oh, this sounds great, but it was not the case.
Okay.
But everything's different.
Were there any like, could you figure out any differences? It's like when it was more helpful and when it was less helpful, or was it just like a random situation?
I think it's just random. For instance, my chart. What's going on right now with me?
Hmm, true. Well, I mean, right now with you, there would be different things. You would have to look at all the. Typically, when you ask about what's going on right now with me, you would be looking at what is called the transits, and in that, we typically look at the outer planets, which means everything Saturn, Neptune, Uranus, Pluto, and Chiron maybe as well. And you would want to take a look at, if where they are in your chart, meaning the specific life area that they touch, plus if they deal with something that would be natal to you. Natal meaning that in your birth situation is a strong placement. So, for example, um, Pluto. Pluto is a planet that is bringing transformation, change. It forces you to look into your life completely from a different perspective and let go of things that are not useful anymore. It's kind of like the cycle of life situation where when things lose their importance, you learn to let go and allow new things to come into your life. And so in this case, for example, you do have, I mean, I don't know how deep you want to go on individual planetary situations, but you do have several planets in Aquarius. Now, Pluto has entered Aquarius about 2 years ago and is moving through that sign slowly. So, because the further it goes towards Taurus, the slower it gets. So, it will be in Aquarius about 18 years, I believe, something like that. So, right now, you probably don't feel it yet. It's a little bit far, but I would say in about 3 or 4 years, probably in 4 years roughly, you will start feeling it because then you're what is called a stellium, where one planet is after another, fairly close together. It's going to be hit one after another. So you'll be, I would think in about 4 or 5 years, you will be feeling like you're in a quick spin in the laundry machine.
Hopefully a good quotes, man.
You never know. I mean, you then look at the situation where this planet is in somebody's birth chart, and that tells you a little bit about um, the themes, the topics that you might be confronted with. So, and yeah, in this case, I would say you might be confronted with things that are underlying your overall being, things that are kind of like pushed to the side at the moment that you don't want to look at, like family hereditary things, these kinds of things. They might come up at that time. So,
Okay,
yeah.
this sounds interesting. How about you, Jay? Have you ever? What do you use your? Have you ever had to do that, or your
Well, I
experience?
mean, as an astrologer, you typically, are looking at your chart nonstop. I mean, nonstop is a little bit exaggerated, hyperbolic, but you haven't. I mean, since you're working with that stuff every day, you know where the planets are, and you know where your own of course, your natal situation is. And then you go like, okay, something's coming my way. So, for example, establishing this company right now, Astromagistus, that was something that I saw coming a year ago. And different things that you do for that. But I was like, okay, something is coming into my life where, based on specific themes that are hit in my birth chart, are going to be interesting as far as establishing something that would be with structure, something that's a vision, and something that has to do with earning money. So it was clear that my career, my work life will be affected, the way I make money would be affected. Probably also moving places because of the houses. Houses are the areas of life that are affected. All of this came together, and I was like, okay. So last year was more the preparation year where everything had to, happen and be prepared. And then with my birthday this year, which was in September, it was clear that now was the time to actually turn this into something real, in something visible to the world, and whatever that would be. And obviously, I was looking at what could this be potentially what we're talking about, and then that to me was very clear that it would have to be this business and what we're doing right now with the talk shows and getting this ball rolling. And really not so much. I mean, it's interesting for me personally. Of course, that's one of the things why I'm doing it, because it's kind of like my path, my life calling. But in the end, it's providing a platform for many people that are hugely talented. And, a little shout out to all the other astrologers that are working on the platform. Some of them also doing talk shows, some others that do not. All of them qualified like some are more, some are less in different fields, but they all have their expertises. So when you come to the website and check that out, you'll see that is there. But back to the question. So yeah, I saw that I would have major changes going on in the field of career, home, and how I make my money. And that will continue probably for about another year. Things are going. It was clear I would be working like a ragged doll for the time being. That should slow down probably around April, May next year. Then like we get to a little more of a routine thing going on where, things are falling into place more. But yeah, so yes, you're looking at that. And every time that you look at your chart, you see different new things. So it's not like you look at a chart one time and then that's everything is said and done. You can ask any astrologer, even 20 years later, knowing all the things that you still end up going like, oh my God, I never really saw that. Or, oh, wow, something new came up. So that's where it's interesting in the context of relationship, career, where should I move? What's going on? Why am I in this situation? Do I have the right kinds of people around me? It basically can give you a huge help. Or in a situation where, let's say you say, hey, Jay, can you tell me if, the move to, I don't know, Washington, D.C. is the best time, is something that I should do? That is a serious question. So you cannot ask like frivolous questions, because then you don't get really good answers. But if you ask questions that are really like heartfelt, almost like when you go to a tarot reader, it's kind of like similar, then you can do the Horary Chart. And the Horary Chart, which is drawn on the moment that the question is asked, kind of like you lay the cards at that moment, right? So at the moment that this chart is basically drawn, you take a look at it and you do get the answers very exactly. I've been doing this for several years now, also in a group that meets regularly. And the charts that we see, the charts that we interpret, and the results that we get are always 100% correct. We never, I mean, even if you don't know anything about what's going on, we do see very clearly what is happening. So I can only, I mean, if people have questions about anything that where you do not have information, where you cannot get information, and you just are like floating out there and you feel like you need an answer, that really is one of the best ways you can go. Come to us. We do have several people that are really specialized in horary. They know how to do this. They're extremely amazing. You don't find many people out in the regular world, like, regular astrologers do usually natal charts. We do have several people based on the traditional astrology that do the Horary Chart, and I can promise the answer is given, and it is an answer that will be true.
Okay, and that goes by the planets, correct?
Come again?
That you get your information based on where the planets are aligned.
Well, with the Horary chart, it's not relating to your natal chart. The Horary chart simply, I mean, it is in a sense that you look like if I know your natal chart and I look at and I know your natal chart, and then you ask me a question that again is the Horary chart. It's a direct question, and you want an answer on that. Then I know your natal chart, and I can see if the Horary chart actually is. Oh, and I forgot the word that it's called, but it's basically that it reflects like it is fitting to you. That this is something that is fitting to you, to your natal chart.
Now, is that the same chart that tells you if you're going to make money in the state, if you're going to find love in the state? They got the lines on it all over.
That's the natal chart again. The natal chart is telling you where you're moving throughout your life. It is basically like a roadmap. It's like you say, okay, I'm starting out in San Francisco and I want to get to Kansas City. I want to meet Dorothy.
This,
So,
well, okay, in your case, maybe it's
and
Toto.
that's
But look,
and that's your natal chart. So in the natal
is that the
chart,
same chart? Is that the same chart I looked at when I said, "Oh, I'm going to make money here in Texas"?
no, that was yet another chart. That is the so-called relocation chart.
Okay, that's what I was talking about.
So, so like I said, astrology has quite a few different fields. You have relocation, you have the yes no questions, which is called horary, from horror, the hour. That's why it's called hour actually in English. So you have the natal chart. You have also something called the draconic chart, which looks at the soul's place in your life. Within your natal chart, you can look, for example, at different things. You can use that and say, okay, I want to know the karma that I bring into this life. I want to understand what my focus in careers is. I want to understand what type of relationship would I attract, and also actually what kind of partner fits me the best. If you know how to do it, you can give answers to all of that. But that is basically your life theme. Like I said, it's like you have a roadmap, and on the roadmap there's city this, town that, gas station here, hospital there. That is your roadmap. But when you go and have a specific question, that's a different chart. That's the chart of the very moment that you're asking, and then that's not related to your natal chart in the sense of nothing reflects other than maybe you say, okay, oh look, that Horary chart, for example, does carry your rising sign, for example, or a specific planet is, on your MC or something like that. And then we can say, okay, there's this connection. There is a connection to the natal chart. So it does give this information. And then that is, like I said, it's very helpful. Most of the time, I would say when you can do it, you should do it. The problem is, for example, if you ask me if I do it for myself, yes, I have. But the problem is I cannot be objective with myself. That's impossible. You can only be subjective. And then sometimes you look at things the way you want them to be rather than that they actually are or what they tell you.
Well, when do you
So,
think a great time is to do it? Right now, a lot of people are losing their jobs to AI and all that jazz. So when would it be a good time to go look at this chart, do you think?
well, the Horary chart, the second that a question comes into your mind, that's when you actually should ask, because typically it's like this like moment, I mean, we all had these moments like out of nowhere, all of a sudden we go like, oh wow, what about this or what about that, right? And that is the moment when you should actually ask. Realistically, of course, you don't have an astrologer around to do this with. On the other hand, now you do now, you just go like, I have this question. It came to me right now. So it is something that is important at this moment. So let me talk to, I go to Astromagistus, go to the website, go look for a Horary chart, and, then find somebody who can do it for you and then get the answer that you want. Of course, you don't do this for like some frivolous things, but if it's something that is important, like I have applied for different jobs, which and then it's like there's one job that you want mostly. Am I going to get that specific job? If you vary it out, like, oh, I have 100 applications running, which one of those 100? You're not going to get an answer on that. So it has to be something that's realistic.
Well, you also specialize in actually when if you're doing people's charts to help them find what job fits them best, correct?
Yes, correct.
That
That
way it's good for both ends.
Yeah, and then again, I mean, if you want to look at it, we talked about this a few years ago. What happened? What was the result?
Now, clarify what you're asking.
When we were talking, you asked me about your, what is it that I am supposed to do? What is my path? What is my career?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yep. You did, and you told me entertaining, being a face, talking to people, using my gift to gab, and well, that's what I'm doing right now.
Exactly. That is, one of the reasons actually why when I started doing these talk shows, I said, hey, now here's well, I told you about it, and you were like, well, couldn't I be part of that? And I said, well, we can take a look at it. So, and that's where you are. So, exactly. And why, and I said that to you before. So, we're spilling a little bit of the beans here right now, spilling the tea as Cafe C does. So I said, I'm, my thing is that I believe in what I'm saying. So I said to you that this is because of your personality, because of your ability to be entertaining and be fun, and get people interested, and you're easy to talk. It's very easy for you to pick up conversations with people no matter where you are, and you're very quickly tuning into their problems and their stories, and you listen to them, and you try to make them feel better and all that. And of course, this is a quality that maybe you think is normal, but for most people, it's not. It's something that not everybody has, and
I don't
that
know about
makes
trying to
it.
make them feel better, but maybe try to give them a different perspective.
Yeah. Well, that makes them feel better, wouldn't it?
I would like to hope so.
Yeah. So that is, again, it's a matter of being. I mean, what is in your chart in this case is let's call it's Chiron, and it is on the so-called descendant. This is the opposite of the ascendant. So people that you meet would be people that are either coaches or looking for coaches. Or mentors, or getting information, figuring out how things work, how to improve something. So that's the kind of people you probably would attract. And funny as it may be, but they see in you sort of like the mature, or the knowledgeable person, because you have that in opposition to your so-called Saturn, and Saturn is on your ascendant. So that usually, if you want to, I mean, again, it's your choice, obviously, but typically you like to come across as the mature person who knows how to handle things and how to do things. So you would attract people that are, yeah, a little bit, let's say, lost. Just to say a nice word, depending on what they're lost in. There's all sorts of being lost, but you would attract these kinds of people. They would see someone in, or something in you, that it's kind of like a reflection, or
Amir,
a mirror, or even projection, where they see, okay, I'm lost. This guy, he's here, he's having a drink, he knows how to live life, blah blah blah, and they listen to you. So again, it doesn't always have to be your reality at this moment that you feel. It is what they see, right? But
okay.
one way or another, the point is that you would attract these kinds of people that would feel, a need of conversation, feeling you make them feel better in what it is that you suggest. What they do in the end, you don't care, but you give them kind of like that ear, and that is again what a lot of people don't do. So, giving someone your ear means they like to listen, and that's the same thing here. That's why I also said is it will be really good having people who probably experience situations on the show, because then you can talk to them, and I think this is where you're going to shine, bringing people that are willing to be on the show, that face problems or don't know what to do, and allow them to talk with you about it, and then have Annie there also, and her adding her astrological understanding and knowledge to all of that, so that could be
Yeah,
a good mix.
I think we're definitely going to end up doing that. And I think people usually only listen to you unless you've been through something similar. And I've been through some things in life, but I believe it's not what we go through, it's how we come out of it. So that's probably why I think people will listen to me, is because I'll just give them backstory and then let them know, hey, I've been there, done that. We got this. We're coming out of this. And, 9 out of 10, that's what they need to hear.
Hmm. Exactly. Yep. So it's, how would you explain that? Again, it's like we all have our own aura, say, and some of us seem to have a draw on other people, whereas others do not as much. I mean, I tend to have this draw as well, but I attract other people than you do.
Hmm.
Okay, so and we do attract the people. It's also not only a one-way street. You learn from them as much as they learn from you, right?
Well, I think that goes back, and we don't meet anyone by accident. I think every time we meet someone,
Exactly.
each party is supposed to learn something. If you learn it, then it's like a video game. You get to go to the next lesson or the next chapter. But if not, you get stuck on repeat, and it comes 10 times worse because you didn't learn the first time.
So, yeah, something along those lines, exactly. And
That's
it's
what I
well,
think.
yeah,
My
yeah. No,
experience.
again, see, you put it in nice terms. So, and It is exactly that. If you're not willing to learn the first time, you're going to repeat, and until you accept the fact that this doesn't work. It's kind of like that old saying, how many times do you need to turn into a dead end until you realize that this is a dead end?
Yeah, so, it's not going to change.
It's not going to change. Yep. So, um, but back to this question, then, for example, as far as, okay, what am I supposed to do with my life? Well, it turns out that this Chiron at the descendant at the same time is for you the so-called MC, the mid heaven, which is the career point in somebody's chart. Okay, so this kind of and I need to explain, actually, a lot of astrologers will go like, what is he talking about? The ruler of Virgo is Mercury, and so he should look at Mercury. Yes, to the listening audience, maybe in a traditional context that is true. And not only maybe, it is true in the traditional context. But when you actually look at Chiron as the modern ruler of Virgo, and anybody who's having a lot of Virgo in their plan, in their chart, will probably, when they do it that way, will find out that this is actually happening. Is, again, it's the teacher, it's the mentor, it's the coach, and you become all of that because you have gone through things yourself. It's not just theory, it is actually lived experience, and that is what you can then bring to other people. Coming back to you, you have, even though you're not that old at this moment, you have had your experiences in life, and that is something. It's a treasure chest that you can draw from, and you can, when you meet somebody, you can say, hey, what's going on with you? So you see somebody who's downtrodden, doesn't know what's going on, desperate, whatever, you can say, hey, what's up, what's going on with you? And you're not judgmental. That's a lot of people.
No.
Exactly. And a lot of people are, well, I mean, they don't talk to everybody. Let's put that. I want to throw
No, there's some
words
people out there
around.
that are judgmental. Let's just keep it 100, and
Yes,
that's true. But for me personally, I know I'm not going to judge no one. We're not here to judge no one. Who
exactly.
am I? Who am I to judge anyone?
But that is my point. So being in your case, being able to be not judgmental also then again makes you open to people that would not find many people to talk to, and they know, okay, I can talk to him, and he's not going to push me away, or he's trying to help me, or he's at least, again,
Again,
he's giving me an ear, right?
yeah. Sometimes all you have to do is listen, and most time, when I'm talking to someone, I can talk out my own problems. I just talk to myself, or I'm talking to other people about what's going on, but then I figure out what I need to fix through just talking about it
Yeah,
personally.
that's exactly it. And in the end, again, this is true, but coming, since you talked about it, okay, so how did we figure it, or how did I figure out with your chart, what can you do, what should you do with your life and all that? This being a coach or being a mentor plays a huge role. Okay, so now why would we say that is best put into the field of the internet, for example? Well, because
To reach the masses in one spot.
that is one thing, to reach masses in one spot. And again, this stellium that you have, meaning several planets in one place, is in Aquarius. Aquarius is known for electricity and for internet and for communication on a higher level and all that. So Mercury is more the talking and being on the phone maybe, but internet and everything fast paced and immediate and so on, that is all Uranian Aquarian energy. So, and again, that is what you have in your chart as being focused, right? So there's more things going on, but I mean, just these few parts already give you a pretty good insight. And one of these planets being Venus at that case, then also, this is how basically now we're building the career work reading that is on the website also. You then look at the second house as, okay, where's my money coming from? Okay. The second house is, so you start with the ascendant, it's the first house, then you go to the next, but you don't go clockwise, you go counterclockwise. So then it's second, third, and so on. So then you go to the sixth house and you see, okay, what should my daily work look like, right? So what kind of like routines, etc., do I have? And then on the 10th house, that's where your career is. So if I do this with your chart, for example, I say, and of course I know your chart by heart. So I have a graphic memory, so I can, almost anybody I've ever done a chart with is in my head. So I can basically, the second I
Yeah.
talk to them, I look at it in my inner eye and I can go through it. So in your case, for example, the second house would be Capricorn. Capricorn is Saturn. Saturn sits again on your first house, on the ascendant. So that tells me, The way you earn money, and this is conjunct with Mars, the way you earn money is by bringing yourself. It's you, who you are, your physical body, your being is bringing in the money. That could be in different ways. Then I look at Mars because there's the conjunction, and that is the ruler of the fifth house. Okay, the fifth house is all about fun, enjoyment, risk, sports, children, creativity, etc., etc. So, in one way or another, through fun, through creativity, through going maybe into places like amusement parks, casinos, you name it, that's where you go to basically, in whichever way that works, you would bring in the money. Okay,
Mm,
so now when I then take the next, but then what is your daily work? Then we have Taurus on that house cusp, which is the ruler to that is Venus. So then I'm looking at Venus and I go like, okay, this Venus in Aquarius, she's together with all these other planets, blah, blah, blah. I don't want to go into the details right now, just as the rough outline. So then, okay, this needs to be his daily life. And because you have, again, this in Aquarius, it's very clear. You need to do something where you can shine because the sun is part of that, where you're communicating, because Mercury is part of that, and then also again, which is Aquarian like, which is you have control. You can do basically what when the mood strikes. Let's put it that way. Okay, when you
mm.
have a lot of Aquarius energy, which relates to Uranus, it is kind of like a when the mood strikes. You have to do things when the mood strikes because it's
Right.
kind of like an on-off thing. So when it's on, you're completely on. When it's off, you can do whatever you want. It's like trying to get an empty battery to perform. That doesn't matter. So it doesn't work. Yeah. So this is basically the setup for how I make money and what my daily work looks like. And like I said, I look at this 10th house MC cusp and I see, okay, well, this is Virgo, and this is ruled traditionally by Mercury, which is part of that Aquarius setup, and then also Chiron, which is in Gemini, and on the descendant. So here I have you coaching people, you attract people that want to hear your advice, you're mentoring them. At the same time, you're talking about everyday things. It's the third house. That's the marketplace. You're basically telling people things that they need to know in their everyday life. Okay. So this would be the ideal setup. Now, this can come together in different ways, obviously. There's not like only this one shot, but being an influencer would allow you, for example, to be in, that's why I said when we talked first, influencer would be really good because the second you're on, your battery is basically fully charged, and whatever energy streams, then you can go like for a few hours and just run around, be crazy, and talk with people and so on. And then when it's off, nobody cares if you're off for a few hours or for even for 2 days because you're doing. I mean, you have enough material for the 5 hours that you were on that you can rest for 2 days. You know what I'm
That
saying?
part, I get it 100%.
Yeah. And this is basically what you can do with. I mean, you do have to look for qualified astrologers. There are a lot of people out there that say they are astrologers, and to somebody who does not know one from the other, somebody who has that is true for any field actually. If you have somebody with half knowledge to the person who knows nothing, that's still a lot that they seem to know. But the problem is that if it's half knowledge, the way of putting things together and understanding the whole is usually difficult for them, or they don't get it. So they get parts, but it's like you're trying to describe a picture and you're only talking about a few things in the picture rather than describing the entire thing. Like I
Me
don't know.
personally, with me personally, I just trust my gut. And then again, I do go and do a lot of research. I do like to go watch these other people that are talking about it and see if they're similar. If they're talking about, if they know what they're talking about. I do a lot of fact checking. I like to be thorough with that. But at the end of the day, it's just trust your gut too, because if someone's hitting home or if they're not, or just beating around trying to say something that can be to anybody. You're gonna know
Correct.
there's gonna be something that they say that's gonna trigger you that that's for you. That's what I feel like.
Very true. Yes. So, I mean, you've been talking to different astrologers in the past. What were your, did you feel there were some that were not really that savvy about what they were talking about? Or did you feel that they all knew in one way or another, really what they did?
There's a few I have come across that I thought, what is this person doing?
Mm.
This has got to be a joke. Okay, well, people are watching them, whatever, but this is not for me. I keep it moving. There's been something like right on the money. Yeah, you are right. I love that. Keep it coming. Um, but yeah, I just like to go through and just fill it out for myself. I can't To each your own is what I say.
So that we're talking right now. No, no, stay in the center for a moment. So that we're talking right now. If you like, remember, you're the one who's good in giving advice to people that are on the lookout for information, right?
Mhm.
So what kind of information would you give somebody that says, okay, I would like to find somebody, I like what I hear here, and how am I going to find the astrologer that fits me? I mean, you cannot, obviously you cannot line 20 astrologers up and say, okay, you say something, you say something, you say something. So how would you go about it?
Well, me personally, I would just get online and, for instance, Instagram, TikTok, whatever, I would go through until I find the one that fits me personally. At the end of the day, I go by what they're saying, and if it hits home, I feel like I'm very intuitive, and I'm like, I just want to know if they say something. Let me give you an example. I was listening to this lady talk, and she said something like "seal the deal." I'm like, okay, well, I feel like this message is coming for me because that's my part of my email. Stuff like that. I just look for the little things. Sometimes the littlest thing will tell you everything.
And that's an interesting point, actually. When you have something like that happening, it's called synchronicity.
Boom.
So, and I would suggest when people have these moments, they should pay attention to them, because even if we don't know how they come together, they are somehow joined. And this is something that Jung, which is one of the foremost psychologists actually of the 20th century, he was one of the disciples of Freud. Jung was talking about that. He was writing. He has a big book about the symbolism of mankind, but he also was going deep into astrology on the one hand, but also into creating this whole new field about synchronicity. And that means, so chronos is time basically, and synchronicity means at the same time. So how things are happening that don't seem to be related, and we don't understand how they could even be in one form or another related, but they are. They, where you have these moments where you go like, weird, this is just strange. And I have this one situation which is now quite a few years back. um, and we were actually, so what happened was, the so-called Faculty of Astrological Studies, they do a summer school in Oxford, and you have to imagine this is like old halls looking like Harry Potter. So we're sitting here at this like long table, like you see them in Harry Potter, like long table, huge, candelabers and ceilings and everything full with like paintings and everything. And we're sitting there having dinner, and I'm talking with the other astrologers and people that attended about all sorts of things, and we also talked about synchronicity. But then we also talked about karma and previous lives and what we might have been and so on. So it was a very interesting conversation. And the people I was sitting with, we were like, I said, true or not, it doesn't matter at the moment, but it's part of the synchronicity thing. I said, when I look at my chart, I could see that I could have easily been Elizabeth the English queen in the 1500 somethings, right? And then the woman next to me goes like, "Oh, this is interesting. I could have been John Dee." And John Dee was the closest confidant of Elizabeth. So it's kind of like me being Elizabeth sitting next to her, and we would have been in this life 500 years ago, being confidants to each other. So, but the real funny thing is happening now is, um, the woman. So this woman next to me saying she's John Dee says, "Well, you know what? Let's ask our waitress what her name is." And she goes, so the waitress comes and she goes, "Elizabeth." I was like, "What?" And we were both laughing our rocks off, because it was almost like she's giving confirmation or affirmation that yes, Elizabeth is who you were. It's just
Right.
like, of all names, why the hell is this girl's name now Elizabeth? I mean, that was just really strange. And
Basically, it's the
these are
universe
the
talking to you.
yeah, and this is what we're talking about when we talk synchronicity. That things happen that, again, they seem unrelated, but out of, like I said, out of all the female first names in the world, why would this one person that serves you at this very moment that you talk about this, why would she be called Elizabeth? Right? Of course, you can say, well, that's just random. Of course, in a way, it is random, but that's the idea behind synchronicity, that there is something going on that we don't understand yet. So.
Yeah.
And back to you.
Yeah.
That's exactly what you were saying about seal the deal, right?
Right. Well, I think what I was saying was it was a sign from the universe, basically. When she was talking about what she was talking about, first I was, she said, "Well, it's just like sealing the deal." I'm like, She's talking to me. Let me sit here and listen to this." There was a couple that actually did that. a couple ones I came across. So usually I just look for the little things that pertain to me, and then I'll listen. Because a lot of this stuff I feel like they're just talking outside of their neck. I'm like, this is not for my message. This message is not for me. So let me
Hmm.
keep it moving.
Yep. So now looking at what we're doing here, with our cafe C and the live streams and everything else, do you think that that would be something that you eventually come across? I mean, we're just getting started, right?
Well,
And
hands down, when you first told me about it, I was all on board with it because I for me to want to get something, I have to really want to be like it or feel like my presence is making a difference.
yes.
So that's why when you talk about it, I was all about it. So for sure, I think whoever it comes across is who it's meant to see. You don't you see it for a reason,
Mhm.
especially if it keeps coming up in your feed or whatever. Definitely, I feel like sometimes. I'm trying to think of an example gonna come to me.
Well,
But
I
yeah,
mean, you've been, like you said, you've been looking at Instagram and TikTok and other stuff for a long time, right? You've been doing these for years.
yeah, fact. And I always go to the astrologers because I like to know, if it hits home or if it's, if I'm on the right. I think if it works for me personally, I can't speak for no one else but myself, but
Right.
it works for me. Sometimes I hear, I'll say, yeah, that's it. But also, I think back, I'm also a master manifester. So when I hear something and I know it's for me, then I kick it and even do it another channel where it happens faster. So
Exactly.
sometimes what we hear is what we manifest. So that being said, guard what you're listening to because it's going to happen if you keep thinking it.
As a matter of fact, that is one of the things that modern astrology, and now we can, sidestep into a completely different area, which is physics. And we have quantum physics in particular. Now, quantum physics is a very, very interesting field because it actually looks at the world. The physics that most of us grew up with is purely based on the material world, right? So basically, humanity in the last 250 years, with the Age of Enlightenment, started to really. The Enlightenment was we take everything only as if there is nothing beyond the material world. But
Mhm.
now with the quantum physics, actually, that started about 100 years ago and has obviously developed since then. We're looking at, well, that's Schrodinger's cat, for example, but there's many other examples. But to explain it in a quick way, until somebody is observing something, you don't know if it's a wave or if it's a corpuscle, which means a part, like something that you could touch. I mean, it's very microscopic, but so it's either a wave is always energy or it's an actual material point. But until you have an observer that says it's either or, it could be both. So it's not defined. That's
Different
quantum
perspective.
physics.
Okay.
Exactly. So that goes back to what you're talking about. So people should actually realize that they are materializing by what they expect. The expectation that you have is going to create the world that you live in.
Right. And we create our world. No one does it for us. So if you're letting someone else
Exactly.
write your book, you're only hurting yourself at the end of the road. If you want something, visualize it, write it down, then begin. Doesn't have to
Exactly.
happen in the first time you get it. Just keep on going until you get it. And that's what I
And
do. I kind of
what is very important, that actually is to actually also really believe. It's not just that you imagine it, but you have to literally live it as if it were already reality. Then that
facts.
reality will grow around you.
Or a door will open it, you walk through it, it happens like that.
Yeah. But if
That's what
you're
I
if
do.
but if you doubt it, or if you think, that's just fantasy and that's never ever going to happen and stuff like that, then it will not. So it's really, this is the trick in the whole thing. It only happens when you truly believe it. Now, of course, we can say, well, how does this then reflect back to what we're talking about here with astrology? Again, astrology can. It's kind of like, it's this is difficult to explain, but when you bring the physics in now, you can actually say, look, there's no time in the non-material universe. Time doesn't exist. Everything is at the same time. Only the material universe. And by the way, the calendar, the time of the day, everything that we have that measures time in our world today, in our system of how we live, is based on astrology. That's where it comes from. Okay, on the planets revolving around the sun and so on and so forth. So this is how it was created. That's why Monday is Monday, the day of the moon, and so on. So anyway, but the point is that having this understanding that Planets are actually energies. And here's another little piece of information. I don't know if you've known this, Chase, or Annie, and maybe that's something you guys can do because both of you are, also creative and into music and things like that. Maybe you want to bring in the spheres, and you basically with that, what I mean is every planet has its own sound. Okay, so you can go to YouTube. Any one of you can do this, of course, at home as well. This is nothing that is dangerous. You can go to YouTube and you can enter sound of Jupiter, sound of Mars, sound of whatever. You take any planet you want, including Earth and the Sun. You will hear on YouTube, there are clips where you listen to what they sound like. Sound means it's frequency. Everything is frequency. Your body is frequency. So how does astrology even work? Well, frequencies can work, again, quantum physics, universes apart from each other. They know that if something happens to a corpuscle here on Earth, something might happen billions and billions of miles away in another universe at the same time, because there's some form of relationship. But I don't want to get this all too like headspacey and complicated and all that. But the point is that
Simple. Keep it simple.
Exactly, keeping it simple. The point is, what matters is that nothing is until it is. Okay, so everything is always in flux. Everything is in the process of becoming. So when you know your chart, that is a chart that tells you this is what you can become. This is what your energies are. These energies respond to the other energies in the universe. So there is a certain limitation. Like a lion cannot be an elephant. That's just how it is. Okay.
Facts.
And a dolphin is not going to be an eagle. That's just how it is. So the Chase cannot be Jay and Jay cannot be Chase. We have our own kind of setup, right? And this is, but the energies explain to you what you can do, and what, like, one elephant can be very different from another elephant. So you can be the individual elephant, basically.
Basically, also be yourself. Is who wants to be someone else? Once you're being yourself and being authentic, everything also I seem seems to fall in line for the greater good.
You know what? You and I agree on this, but this is actually another one of these contentious points. You're saying who wants to be someone else? Well, you don't, and there's a reason why you don't. But then look at all the teenagers screaming, oh, I want to be this rock star, or I want to be this actress, or I want to be, they project because they feel weak, they feel unimportant, and they see somebody who supposedly is important because they're on, in a movie for 90 minutes.
Or they're just on a different path that's not theirs. And we need to redirect them into a path that is theirs, so they can feel that same feeling by being something that's for them and not someone else.
And this is exactly the point of astrology. It basically tells you are meant to be your own star. You can be your star, but in what you're here to do. Again, right. If you want to be a star, if you're a dolphin and you want to be a star as an eagle, it's not going to happen, right? So somebody, let's say, give me an actor's name. I don't care which.
Shakira.
Okay,
she's well, she's a singer.
She's a singer, but so Shakira. So Shakira, if we look at her chart, and I haven't, to be full disclosure here, but if we would look at her chart, I'm very sure we would see that she has these elements of, body movement, of looks, of musical talent, and all these other things. So it would be very natural for her to become who she became.
She's an Aquarius. I do know that, and we do.
I know that, but I know that, but just being Aquarius doesn't do it. I mean, you're not Shakira, are you?
No.
So, but the point is, there are different things that come together, and that's why I'm saying, if you want to know if you are meant to be a Shakira, then go to an astrologer, come to us on Astromagistus, because we can tell you what you will be. I've been doing this for the last 10 years, where I have been working with individual people. I didn't do it professionally in the sense of opening a praxis, but I did it with people I liked, because I thought I want to, test it and have fun with this and see what happens and all that. So I did my, if you want, due diligence in this environment. And everybody I worked with, when they focused on what they were here to do, became stars in their own field. Okay, and really turned their life into something that they really enjoyed, where before they were miserable because it was kind of like, oh, well, I'm just doing something to earn money. It's not only boring, it's a sad life, because yes, of course everybody needs to have, in our world at least, you need to have money to be able to survive. But that doesn't mean that you have to be, doing something that you hate, or that you just, and another thing that a lot of people do is like, well, this person is successful with this, so I just need to do the same thing and I'm going to be successful. It's like, no, because that's them. You need to be you. As your lovely phrase that you like to say all the time: "Stay in your lane." Exactly, stay in your
Stay in
lane.
your lane. That's right.
Yes,
Stay in your lane.
yeah.
God knows if you don't, Lord, it could be collateral damage.
Absolutely. So, the Lord gave you your lane, stay in that lane. And if you do that
Exactly.
and even if you think your lane is so insignificant and so unimportant, then that is something in your chart that's telling, I mean, again, an astrologer can see that you have these inhibitions and these, illusions, whatever in your life, in your chart, and they can explain to you, look, this is your view on this, and we cannot say that the view that you have is wrong, but you can change your view. You can change how you look at something
You
and
can
how
get
you
a different
perceive
perspective.
something. Exactly, you can gain different perspectives on something. That is always a possibility. We all have this
It's
possibility.
also the people you have around you as well. Because you
Of
have people
course.
around you telling, oh, you tell somebody you want to do something, and they're telling you, oh no, you shouldn't do that, do this. You need to tell those people to fuck off. Because at the end of the day, no one's gonna do it like you do it. Just because they think you shouldn't do it, don't mean you shouldn't do it. You should trust your own gut and do it and see what happens. Period.
That's exactly the point. Yep. And I can only reiterate what we already said. If you go to an astrologer, Astromagistus has amazing people. We basically all know how to do natal charts, and when you get somebody who really knows how to do your natal chart, you will walk out with an understanding of what your life is all about and what your lane is and what you can be successful with. Maybe you will end up needing some additional coaching for that. There's no harm done in that. Spend a couple, I mean, maybe this sounds funny for me saying it because I own the company, but in the end, spend a couple $1,000. It's on you, it's on your life, and it's on being a success.
Well,
Most
I would say this. I would say, let's back up. I would say this. I would say a couple thousand. I would say get a reading, see if y'all relate, and then see if what they say is actually coming to fruition if you put it into work. How about that? And
Yeah,
then once you see that it lines up, then spend some more money if you need to. But also, I think once you put them on the right track, everything's going to fall into place. They're not going to have to keep coming back.
it
This is
always
not like
does.
this ain't your therapist. This is someone's going to help you get on the road to success, and you're going to be able to move forward in a positive direction.
Exactly. But
That's what I think of that.
that's exactly what happens.
And
Things are
Jay, I will
falling
say
in
this.
place.
You are pretty good because every time you tell me something or you tell me I need to do this or do that, and I end up doing it, it always works out. Sometimes I
It's
don't
it's
listen in the beginning. And then I'll
it's
go back
not
and go,
me.
damn, what?
It's not me. I'm just a messenger basically. I'm just telling you what.
Facts.
Yeah.
That use the vessel. That's what I tell people when I tell sometimes I know things for I when I shouldn't sometimes I know things ahead of time and I'll give someone a message and look at me, how do you know that? You don't know what you're talking about. Okay, whatever. I feel I'm just a vessel. I give you the message. It's up to you what you do with it. Then they always come back to me. How did you know that was gonna come to fruition? Bitch, it's a gift. Get out of here. You should have just took it for what it's worth and see what was gonna happen instead of being so blah blah blah. Sometimes you just
Well,
know.
it's. I mean, and this is one of the. Maybe this is my personal thing now. Talking out of situations that I face in my life, it's like I have people asking me for advice. Yours truly being part of that, as you just said, and then they go like, "Well, that's your opinion," and I just do what I want to do. I'm like, "Okay, if you want to take it like that, fine. It's not my opinion that I'm giving you. It is I'm just a vessel. I'm just a messenger. Take it as you wish. But it's like if I had a penny or a dollar for every person that came back to me saying, if I only had listened to you, I would be a rich bitch. I wouldn't do this
Rich
right now.
bitch. Rich
Yes,
bitch. Okay.
I mean, seriously,
I
it's
love that.
like, why don't you just start listening in the first place? Why do you even come to me and ask for an advice if you don't want to listen to it? It's like, then just do what you want to do.
And not even just listening, maybe just
Try
listen to
it.
what you're or listen to what you're saying and just give it a try. Well, it don't hurt
Exactly.
to try anything. At least you can say,
Exactly.
at least you can say, hey, I tried.
And
And
that's it.
also it goes back to when it comes to this work stuff and going to astrologers and finding out the life coach and all this jazz. When you find out what you're put here to do, just going by the moons and the stars, when you do something, you love it's not a job no more. You love doing it, and then it just
Yeah.
all the money coming back to back. It's like you're not a job. You love this.
Exactly. Well, I mean, see, this is something that again happens. It will happen for you. It will happen. It happens for me when I'm in my energy, basically. And this, my energy being. I mean, I'm also a pretty good teacher for languages and all that. Which, by the
You
way,
are.
so for everybody, I'm also doing that. But I'm also pretty good, and it is shown in my chart that this is also within the realm of what I can do. So I wouldn't have to be an astrologer. I can simply be a teacher on things that are foreign, if you want. But with astrology, I'm even getting closer to the core of what it is than I do with languages. And I am completely in my element when I do this. And I do find things that sometimes I'm surprised, and particularly this year was a big eye opener with AI coming along and everything else. And again, and this is a warning to everybody. Yes, you can ask the AI, something about your chart, like, oh, what am I like if I have, Venus in Sagittarius and my sun is in Aquarius, whatnot. It will give you an answer, but I'm telling you, it's not the complete picture. It will only give, and with artificial intelligence, you always have to direct it. You have to know what you're asking, and you have a basic knowledge or a pretty good understanding of what the normal answer is for something before you can just throw it out there. Because if you don't understand if the response is correct or incorrect, you just believe what the artificial intelligence is telling you. And I can assure you, if you do not ask correctly, you will get an answer that is most likely incorrect. It sounds great, but it will be incorrect. That is what they call hallucination. So, but what I was going to say is as far as, I just recently had somebody, is kind of, you could say a personal friend, early 40s, very disenfranchised from what he's been doing in his life so far, not really his field. And he's one of these people that constantly asks me, but then always says like, "But well, that's what your opinion is, but I do blah blah blah." Well, in this case, he actually did listen. I said to him, "Well, you know what? You should do modeling. That would work for you." What are you talking about? I'm in my 40s. I'm 41 now. Why would I do modeling? Blah 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 blah. I'm like, well, you know what? It doesn't hurt to try. In this case, actually, he did start to try. And you know what? This was a year ago, and he has now gigs about 3-4 a month. He's making about $10,000 with it every month. I don't think
Oh,
it's
nice.
shabby. Yeah. I'm like, I said to him, I told you this would be something that would work for you, you know. And for being on a set for like 4 or 5 days a month and making $10,000, I'd say it's not bad. I mean,
Hey, it's extra money.
if I would say a lot of people put a lot more effort into other things and make way less than that.
Facts. Fuck that.
So I mean, and that's just, I mean, then again, that was in his chart, obvious for me. But would I say that to you, for example, you should do modeling? No, not because you're an ugly person, but simply that is not what is shown in your chart. Your chart clearly shows you're a mentor and a trainer and a coach, and you talk with people. Your things. It doesn't hurt when you're attractive or fun or nice or charming, whatever. I don't say any of that. But what I'm saying is that your path would not be like the stellar actor or the model. That is just not the energy that you're floating in.
Gotcha. I'm fine with that.
Yeah. So, and yet again, what if you do what you are here to do, you're going to be successful. It will come. The more you do it, the more you will
Well,
see things are coming your way. This is the weirdest, maybe the weirdest thing. I can only promise everybody it really is true.
I
Experience for the last 10 years show that.
I believe you're correct, and I also believe we need to quit. We need to quit saying it's weird. It's just because you're not used to it or don't know it. I just think it's how it's supposed to be. And when you're doing what you're
Yeah.
supposed to do, the universe does the rest. Hands down.
Oh, the universe, call it God, whatever you want to call it, but it is here, and we are here to. I mean, the idea is that everybody is part of God, basically, right? We're all part
Yeah,
of
we're
the
all connected.
universe. We're all connected, and this God entity, whatever you want to call it, I'm not talking it from a religious point of view. I'm talking about from an energy point of view. This God entity wants everybody to succeed because in the end, we all go back to where it or what it is. We are just singled out to make experiences and then eventually return. So obviously, it wants for everybody to do the best that we can because then it's basically supporting its own success, if you want. And it really, I've seen this so many times. As soon as people tune into their energy, it's amazing what flies their direction.
Facts.
I mean, another thing, this is like 15 years ago. I was working with somebody who was completely, down and out with his life, very unhappy. And I said, "Well, let's take a look at your chart." And at that time, I was also more at the beginning and much less, let's say, skilled than I am now. But I said, you really should do something where you're on your own, where you're writing. You're going to be the person of attention. Long story short, the topic that he was going to focus on. And again, his chart said that, and everybody goes like, well, how do you see something like that? Believe me, you can see everything in a chart. It was about wild plants. Wild plants. You go like, okay, what am I going to do with wild plants? As it turns out, that there are a lot of people that are interested in the traditional ways of how do I feed myself from nature, how do I clean myself, hygienic products made out of plants,
Medicine.
medicine out of plants. So it turns out all of these things could be put together, and he put them together. He started writing books about them. I was working with him on making all that happen. It was a 3-year situation. We actually got him to be on national TV. Well, actually, I did help getting him on national TV. He was in many different national magazines written about. And then we actually developed bachelor degrees with different colleges in that field. So,
Oh, nice.
yeah, nowadays, so he has books, bachelor degrees. He has a foundation where, now more and more cities pick that topic up. So there's a part in parks. So they create a new park, and a part of the new park is edible plants, so and edible and hygienic plants, etc., etc. So basically based on that program that we put together back then. So, and he now makes 6 figures, like like between, I would say, somewhere around $500,000 a year.
That's
But at
doable.
the but at the time, that's why I'm bringing it up. At the time when I said it to him, he looked at me like I'm crazy, and he's like, "Well, why would I do this? Nobody, I mean, nobody does this." I'm like, exactly. That's your niche.
Even
That's
more
what you're
reason to
here
do it.
for. Exactly. Yes, you have to till the soil for that, but it's your it's your field, right? Till it, and you'll have to harvest. And he
And if you're the
did.
only one doing it, you got more people coming to you because there's no one doing it.
Yes. And
That's
he
a good
now
thing.
is basically the known person for this environment. And um, like I said, I mean, at that time there was nobody doing this. There was nobody, looking into this. And he was like, "How am I going to make money with this?" I'm like, "Well, because you're creating it. That's your
Yeah.
job." And he
But where
did.
there's a will, there's a way.
So they say, yes.
Yeah. Well, this is something I know as well. We only have a few minutes left. I just want to tell everybody thank you for listening to us. I hope you got something from it, hopefully. If not, come back to the next one. You get something from that one, hopefully. Chain
Well, in
reaction.
the next one, obviously, you have somebody who's a shining star on the horizon. You will have Annie back, and
Yes, Annie, we miss you, Annie. We miss
yes, she'll be back. I'm sure she'll be watching this show and go like, "Oh my God, this was so weird."
you. Right. You're supposed to be there, girl. We'll see you next Thursday then. We miss you.
Yes. So maybe
Um,
maybe I should have worn a wig with like long blonde hair, and say
no, Jay,
hi.
that's scary. We're not trying to scare people away.
So anyway, no, it was fun. We had a good time, I guess, and
Yeah,
we brought
obviously.
up some pretty good stuff. So in the last moment again. So in the top corner to the right, we have the QR code that brings you straight to the website. Again, it's called Astromagistus. We're happy to welcome you there. You can get so-called automated readings. So that means you don't have to talk to anybody. You can just get your feet wet, basically. They're quite long. The printout for the natal chart can be, if you're beyond 30 years old, can be about 50 to 60 pages, but there is actually a 3-page summary on those charts, so don't worry about that. Beyond that, all these wonderful people, like I said during the show, are waiting for you. They can give you really good insights into what's going on in your life and who you are, and help you to, if you have lost tracks, to get on track or get back on track, and hopefully, take off into a future that you could never even dream about.
And another thing is that whatever's lost can always be found. So just because you veered off the road don't mean you can't get back on it. You could do this. Everybody
Exactly.
could do it.
See, and that is the choo-choo train, and here's your conductor, Mr. Chase, and he was doing exactly. He's taking you where you need to go. So,
God
yeah. So
willing.
when you see him on the street, say, "Hey, Chase, I saw you on the talk show."
That part.
All right. Well, good talking. It was fun, and I guess we're like, tuning out now.
Yeah,
Thank
we
you very
are.
much,
Yep, thanks.
and you and I guess we can talk a little bit later still.
Yep, sounds good. Thank you everyone once again. Hit that follow, hit that heart, do what you do. Come back and see us soon.
Oh, you know what? Before we close out, one more thing. We are going to create shorter versions of the videos, and we are going to have reels on social media popping up every once in a while. So, one of the things that Chase mentioned earlier, that we are looking at, or we many of us like to look at TikTok or other reels to get a little, intake and see if we like somebody. So this is coming from the talk shows, so you can see your favorite people. It will take probably out a few weeks, but then we start popping up all over social media. Okay. Yay. All right.
We'll, we'll see you
Okay.
soon.
See you soon. Thank you. Bye.